For anybody that has any initial questions or questions throughout the presentation, make sure to drop it in the Q&A box. And like always, if you've joined us on our past presentations, you will have an opportunity towards the end of our presentation to raise that little yellow hand symbol, and you'll be able to have 1 minute to speak, and then hopefully we'll have some time to respond to everyone. So just probably start in another minute. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Alexander Cayozo. I am the project manager and landscape architect with the Bureau of Street Services, City of Los Angeles. And we are excited to be presenting the phase 3 of our outreach for the Melrose Avenue Pedestrian Improvement Project. This is, again, the Melrose improvements that are going to be on Melrose Avenue from Highland to Fairfax. Before we get started, I wanted just to kind of remind folks again, this meeting will be recorded tonight. The recording will be posted on our website within a couple days or sometime next week on our Melrose website, and that will also be sent out to the attendees who are here tonight. So if you miss anything, you want to listen to it again, the recording will be up there. Also, the other kind of cool thing we're doing tonight is you guys are going to actually get the chance to vote on stuff, and actually we're actually able to record what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what wayfinding signs you like, what gateway signs you like, etc. Like what the look of Melrose is going to be. You guys are going to be able to give your feedback. Tonight we are not going to be sharing the results, but we will be sharing them in June after we have a second repeat meeting of tonight. And we'll repeat this again in case anybody misses this, but we won't be sharing the results tonight, but we're going to be excited to share them in June once we have a second meeting and get more feedback from folks. So we are going to get started. Again, I'm Alexander Cayozo with Street Services, and I'm going to introduce you to the rest of the panel. We're going to start with the Streets LA team, and last but not least, the council office. All right, Jeff, go ahead. You're up.
Hello, I'm Jeff Palmer. I work for Bureau of Street Services, and I'm working on this Melrose Pedestrian Improvements Project.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Derek Lee, civil engineer, Streets LA.
And we also have with us Elise.
Good evening, everyone. Elise Lee, Community Engagement Manager with the External Relations team.
And I guess that's me. I'm Debbie Diner-Harris. I'm Councilmember Paul Koretz's District Director.
Thank you, Debbie. We really appreciate you being here tonight with us. Okay, so Jeff is going to pull up the screen here. So during our presentation, you guys can drop questions and comments in the Q&A box. And we may try to be able to answer some of them during the presentation, but most likely we'll get to them at the end. Also, towards the end of our presentation, you will have the opportunity, if you'd like to speak openly. You'll each have 1 minute, so there's a little yellow hand raise. So we'll let you know kind of towards the end of that presentation when it's time to pop that little yellow hand up, and we'll open the floor at that point. Let's get started. So Melrose Avenue Pedestrian Improvement Project. This is just such a great image. This image on Melrose has become kind of like our image of Melrose, which just shows the great activity, the liveliness of Melrose, the art, the folks who are out there walking, the shopping, the dining, etc. It's just a really good feeling and vibe. But we know that there is some room for improvement on Melrose, hence why we have this $3.9 million grant that we got in 2015. So you can go to that next slide, Jeff. Before that we get into actually the details of the grant, I just wanted to explain a little bit about who we are and our organization and what our role is within the city. I know sometimes it's a little confusing, but we, Bureau of Street Services, we are not outside consultants. We are actually city employees. So if you look from the top, we have the Office of the Mayor, and the 15 council offices. And of course, we have tonight Debbie Diner Harris with CD5, Paul Koretz's office. We have the Board of Public Works, and under the Board of Public Works, we have 5 bureaus. One being Bureau of Street Services, which is us. 2, the second one being Bureau of Street Lighting, which lights our streets and sidewalks throughout LA. The third being the Bureau of Engineering. The fourth being Bureau of Contract Administration, which handles permits, street issues, etc. And 5 is Department of Sanitation, which is the great men and women that actually come and pick up the trash and keep our streets clean in the city. But under the Bureau of Street Services, we have 2 significant divisions. One being the Design Build Division, which is Jeff and Derek and others within our team, which is comprised of landscape architects, civil engineers, grant writers, and we're really, really fortunate to have skilled construction teams, as well as Urban Forestry Division, which has arborists, tree trimmers, plumbers, and landscape installers. So the really great thing about our bureau, which we're really proud to say, is that we have designers on staff, we have grant writers, and then we have construction crews that actually can build a project. So when you're going to see us out there, you're going to see Jeff, myself, and Derek walking the streets. We're going to be working on the designs for you guys, and our crews will be out there. So we're taking this project from start to finish. So we're really proud that we're able to do that for you. The next slide. Little bit of project history and timeline. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names who are here tonight with us, so I won't get into too many of the details. But back in 2015, in partnership with the Council Office, the Bid, and Street Services, the Melrose Business Improvement District, we were able to obtain a $3.9 million Metro Call for Projects grant, which is fantastic. There was multiple years where there was back and forth with community outreach engagement. The awarding process does take some time. I know folks have asked us in the past, well, why is it now 2021 and we're just doing this project? The money was always allocated to be funded in 2018, 2019. So even though we did actually win the grant in 2016 or so, the money was never actually earmarked to be released for our actual beginning of community outreach, our design, et cetera, which is the process we're in now, until 2018, 2019. I hope that answers that, because I know I've had that question a couple times. So now we're basically at the point of, if you look on kind of the end of this paragraph here, we are kind of in the tail end of our community outreach. So we've made a lot of really good progress on some of the concepts and the real art that you're actually going to start to see on Melrose, which we're bringing to you tonight. We have another few months of outreach, and then we're really going to hit the books and really start hard on our design. And we are looking at a potential start of construction date in summer of 2022, which is really exciting. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. Now I'm going to pass it off to Jeff, who's going to take it from here.
Thanks, Alexander. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the project scope. There's going to be a little redundancy for those who have attended previous meetings, so just bear with us. We want to make sure that everybody gets the information if they haven't attended previous meetings. So the scope, basically what this project delivers. New shade trees and new and enlarged tree wells throughout the entire project area. And I'll show the map plan that has a project area sketched out on it so you can understand the scope limits. Gateway signage, which is signage, usually I think of it as signage for cars, larger signs that kind of identify the corridor. And then wayfinding signage, which is signs that are more at a pedestrian scale for people who are on foot on Melrose. Street furnishings, pedestrian level lights at the bus zones, sidewalk widening and replacement on Melrose from Orange Grove to Ogden on both sides of the street on Melrose. And area sidewalk replacement at those 12 bus stops throughout the corridor, as well as new curb ramps at the bus stops throughout the corridor. And tonight we're really kind of going to focus on 2 main things. We're going to focus on the widening of that 1 block stretch, and we're going to talk about signage. And Alexander mentioned that you guys will have a chance to weigh in on your thoughts regarding the signage. Oh, next slide. Here's that project map I was talking about. You can see the dashed blue line is our project limits, our project area, and it's Melrose from Fairfax to Highland. Those bus stop improvements are the little red square. And then we have the green rectangle, above Fairfax High School there, and that's our sidewalk widening area. And then the little green circle symbols are to show our new shade trees throughout the corridor. And here is a sidewalk widening plan. So we're kind of zoomed in here in front of Fairfax High School. And part of how we're achieving this widened sidewalk is a restriping or a reconfiguration of the traffic lanes on Melrose. The biggest takeaways are the removal of an eastbound left turn onto Orange Grove. So if I'm driving east on Melrose, I can no longer turn left onto Orange Grove. And also the removal of a westbound left turn into the Fairfax High School parking lot, which has been vetted with Fairfax High School, and they tell us that that's seldom used anyway. Then we also see our widened sidewalk area, new trees. And on that south side of Melrose, we're going to maintain the existing bus-only parking. That's going to remain. And we're going to have no parking loss. Department of Transportation developed a striping plan with us, and they were able to achieve what was needed to widen those sidewalks without the loss of parking. So that's a great thing, and they were really able to help us out with that. Okay, a lot of people ask, and again, I kind of went over some of this analysis and rationale in the last meeting, but we're going to go over it again, just kind of make folks understand why we widen sidewalks. Besides the fact that the grant is telling us that we have to widen sidewalks, and we're beholden to do so, we're going to give you a little bit of the analysis as to why. This is current conditions. This is that spot that Alexander had mentioned. Melrose on the north side across the street from Fairfax High School. And this is the other side of the street right in front of Fairfax High School. So one of the main things here is that the sidewalk here is 7 feet wide, and that's substandard for us. We don't like to see that because there's a lot of programming, a lot of folks are trying to get around on the sidewalk, and we want them to be able to do so safely and easily. We look at something like this. Well, if that's 7 feet, how much is that? 3 feet? That's not really much space between the guy's toes and the guy on the scooter. So you start to see the constraint of these narrow sidewalks. Same thing across the street here. I mean, it looks pretty normal from here, but again, we have that 7 foot sidewalk where we'd like to see it much wider than that. If we look at it from a different angle, well, there's some construction happening here, which limits that sidewalk width to 5 feet. There, it's even narrower. Maybe that's a foot. And also, this is a bus stop. So, folks waiting for the bus, and you can imagine, school lets out, and a lot of kids are waiting for the bus. These sidewalks get pretty crowded, and it's just hard to move down the street for anybody. Again, there's the 7 feet in that same stretch. And here's somebody who has opted to not try to go down the sidewalk because there's a lot going on there, clearly. But that creates a real issue because folks are then walking in the street, and we understand, the nature of traffic on Melrose and how it can really move, and that just becomes a real concern for us. So we just want to make sure that the sidewalks are accessible for everyone. So sometimes we might think, oh, I can get through that, or I can just go around that car, but we really do have to accommodate all modalities when we're working in the public right of way. So again, this is that plan. We lose our left turn onto Orange Grove, headed eastbound on Melrose. We lose our left turn into the Fairfax High School parking lot, westbound on Melrose. No parking loss, which is great. We have our widened sidewalks and our trees, and our existing bus-only parking remains. And this is an image, a photo collage of what that widened sidewalk looks like in our area of focus here, as well as some new trees. You can see there's just a lot more space. I'm going to jump back here, 7 feet, that limitation, that constraint. Now we jump out here, and these are now 12 feet plus or minus, and there's just a lot more space, and folks can move down the sidewalk safely. Okay, now I'm going to move into the signage and talk about that a little bit. And looking into the signs, kind of started to look into the history and the context of Melrose. And what it means to folks. You know, it has some colorful history, history of hip retail, and these are kind of fun images from the Melrose in the 80s that I pulled up from the internet that somebody had gathered there, and they're a lot of fun. Also a lot of pedestrian culture, a lot of folks on the street, which you see today out there on Melrose. Active small businesses, small retail, and a lot of folks on the street, as well as kind of this legacy of kind of graphic, whimsical, colorful pop art type of design. We have a history of it here. Again, a lot of this from the 80s, shops on Melrose, a restaurant, hamburger restaurant that looked like a giant hamburger, etc. So kind of that was a genesis for some ideas in terms of what these gateway and wayfinding signs could look like. So ideas. Just in sketching and thinking about what these signs could be, well, you know, we'd like them to be visible. We'd like them to be punchy, graphic. It'd be cool if they were self-illuminating as well. So exploring the idea of having a light fixture that shows both sides of a sign, so you can read the sign headed in both directions on Melrose. And so this would be the front view of this sign with a little bit of like a mascot character for Melrose. And we have a few other options I'm going to show you in a minute. And this is a side view. So it's a pretty thin piece of steel or aluminum, depending on what our structural engineers advise. And then we have some downlights illuminating the face, both faces of the sign itself, as well as having a light fixture inside this light bulb concept, which ends up something like a steel cage of a light bulb, a kind of borrowed arm from a desk lamp, and a repurposed, hopefully, lighting standard, like an antique, Los Angeles lighting standard. And so we kind of have a remix of what a street light is, but it's kind of co-opted and turned into this sign to help Melrose have a little bit of identity. And there are 2 of these gateway signs total. This was the sign in context. This is Melrose at Orange. We're looking west. So you can see kind of the scale or the relative size of the sign, how big it is. You can see it's intended to be seen by motorists, but will be seen by everybody, pedestrians as well. And this is another sign looking east, so at the other end of our project area near Fairfax High School. And in both of these images as well, you can see also trees, new trees sketched into these images. In terms of sign content, that's to be determined with the help of the council office, the Melrose Business Improvement District, and any community groups that are interested in participating in that, determining the content of these signs. And these are options. 3 options. Again, kind of going with that whimsical kind of pop, fun, light idea. Kind of hoping that people are in the same frame of mind and maybe ready for a little levity and also understand the kind of historical precedent for a whimsical design approach along Melrose. Number 1, we have our Melrose mascot face. Number 2, a cute pink cloud. And number 3, some sunglasses. So I think this is the time for our first poll, if I'm not mistaken. So you select your favorite or a few favorites. You can select more than one, and we're going to be counting and tracking how many of you like what. And also, this is this will be continued, as Alexander stated, beyond this meeting. So it's not your last chance or your friend's last chance who couldn't attend this meeting. There will be further voting for these signs. I see people engaging a lot. This is great. 61% of you voted. Come on, the other 39, I'm bad at math. Oh yeah, you guys are jumping in. Okay, this is great. Very cool. Thanks so much for participating, everyone. Really do appreciate it. Still could use a few more. We're at 67%. Come on. Okay. Elise, I don't know if I end this poll or you end this poll or how it works, but Cool. Thanks everyone for participating. Let's see, I'll jump to the next slide here. So as kind of companion pieces for these designs are the wayfinding signs that we talked about. Those are the pedestrian scale signs. So more ideas, you know, maybe our mascot friend has some more friends, you know, friends who are representative of things we think of when we think of Melrose, and in the kind of light and whimsical vein. These to be deployed on a smaller pole and more, again, at the pedestrian scale. So people can come up to them and read what's on them. And again, in terms of the content and the text of what's going to be on these signs, that is to be determined in the future. Okay, we're already at another poll. So here's the menu of delicious signs to choose from. And I think, Elise, we're ready to go and let folks weigh in and select some signs. Polling is live. And you can select more than one as well. Choose a few favorites. We're probably not going to deploy all 9. So this is kind of a rating to kind of, let's say we only end up using 4 or 5 throughout the corridor. We'll choose the ones that people like the most. Still getting some votes. I know this one's, there's 9 options, so we'll give a little more time for this and let folks weigh in. Enter Jeopardy theme music here. %8% have voted. Come on, 71, keep going. You guys are doing great. I love this. Maybe give it another minute. There's some head scratching between the hot dog and the bus. I defer to Elise to call it when she sees fit. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for weighing in. Really appreciate that. So now I think it is time. Oh, there's one more poll. Basically, just wanted to get people's thoughts on the trees proposed for this project. Provide shade, provide some cohesion going down Melrose. And trees provide a lot of benefits, which if you've attended previous meetings, you've heard me talk about at length, but did want to get folks to weigh in on what they think about the trees along Melrose, proposed tree planting. So do we have that poll or just a comments section open?
Just a comments, Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, so folks are free to drop more comments in. I appreciate it. I'm trying to answer some of your comments while Jeff's been talking. But yeah, drop some comments in too about your thoughts on trees. I know there's been comments in the past on, you know, is this going to turn into ficus trees and block all the signs and uplift sidewalk again? We've definitely heard that. We don't want that to happen. So Jeff and I are really putting our heads together on we're going to focus on selecting trees that are appropriate for the urban environment, that are going to be trained to not block signage. There's going to be a little bit of growing pains, no pun intended, with the trees, where will be some training, and we're going to try to work with business owners on where those trees are going to be placed. We are going to be reaching out to a lot of folks on Melrose to make sure they understand what those trees are going to be looking like, where we're going to be placing them, etc. So again, this isn't the end, but love to hear your thoughts on trees on Melrose, benefits of trees on Melrose. You don't like trees, that's okay too. Tell us. We want to hear from you guys. And in regards to tree species, we don't have anything finalized yet. Probably in the next meeting or two, we'll have something more finalized, but we're definitely looking at trees that are more columnar in shape, which is a little narrower, but still would provide shade for the corridor, and also aesthetic interest. Keep those comments coming, and then we can chat a little more. We had some comments that I wanted to address regarding signage before we get into trees, and then opening it up to folks who want to speak openly. Give it another 30 seconds. You guys type in your thoughts on trees, please. We want to hear from you. Favorite tree, trees you don't like, whatever your thoughts are. Okay, well, I'm going to start to answer or address some of these questions. You guys are still welcome to start to continue adding in. So it looks like there's a couple questions regarding going solar for the wayfinding sign for the gateway signage. We appreciate that comment. That's something we could look into. But typically, the nice thing about LED fixtures now is they are so unbelievably low in usage. Sometimes under like a typical light bulb that you would have in your chandelier at home. So a lot of these lights now are 50 watts, 40 watts or less. So it's a very low usage. And we have had a lot of success with gateway signage and using LED light fixtures, but I do appreciate that comment regarding solar. Let's see other comments regarding the signage. I want to address these signage questions and concerns. Jeff, I'm sure you're seeing some of these too. Bear with us 1 second. We're just trying to play catch up. It seems like a few folks are liking the pink cloud, which is one of the fun concepts. Yeah, I'm not seeing too many other comments. I know there was, and it's fine if you guys aren't loving some of the wayfinding sign. That's okay. We appreciate those comments. So totally okay. So we're seeing a few comments here on trees as well. Let's see. Talked about the trees that we're considering. Again, about the more narrow columnar trees that don't lift sidewalk. We don't want to be putting ficus back as much as the ficus and other types of trees like that are fantastic in certain scenarios. We won't be putting those back on Melrose. However, we are trying to maintain as many healthy, good condition trees as possible on Melrose. If a tree is in good condition and we can fix the sidewalk where it's uplifted, we want to keep those trees. LA is hot in the summer. It's hot even sometimes in December, like the hot Hanukkah and hot Christmas. It happens. So we want to maintain our existing tree canopy on Melrose and infill and add and really create even more shade. There's folks commenting on the trees and how hot it is. Yeah, we appreciate those comments. Someone says, don't let them go above 25 feet. They'll be spreading out and create more shade. Ficus can be put with root barriers, right? So we won't unfortunately be using the ficus just because we don't have a lot of room again within our sidewalk zones. And we will be considering the height of the trees, the spread of the trees, considering what businesses are along those frontages, how we can kind of strategically place those trees. A lot of the times too, we do try to place trees between buildings. So there's minimizing of that initial blocking of signage, and then also training those trees in the beginning to get them lifted up and get those canopies above the signage. Seeing here, someone's mentioning the Chinese elms on Santa Monica Boulevard. That is a nice tree, and we've seen there's in WeHo. I know they have good maintenance where they actually trim those trees a lot. So we appreciate that comment on the Chinese elms. Let's see any other comments on trees. Okay. A couple other folks just mentioning some other species. Yeah, thank you for that. With California natives, we try to consider some natives as well. Don Duckworth is asking about pedestrian lighting. We've talked about pedestrian lighting in past meetings. We are doing pedestrian lighting at all of the bus zones, which is great. So there's going to be 12 bus zones total in the end, once all the pedestrian improvements are modified on Melrose. So all of those bus zones will be receiving pedestrian LED lights there. But there won't be pedestrian lighting in other portions of this area. A couple other folks kind of really voting for native trees. That's good to see. The London plane tree is an existing tree on the corridor, and that actually does pretty well in LA. It's another species that we've considered. And I apologize, I'm trying to keep up with some of these comments. Maybe this might be a good time to open the floor for folks who want to raise their hands, and maybe while I can type in some answers to kind of catch up with everybody. So if there's some folks who want to speak openly, we can start raising your hand, that little yellow hand symbol. And I will open the floor to folks who want to speak openly. All right, I see a couple hands going up. All right. We're going to start with, sorry. All right, we're going to start with Denny Weintraub. Denny, can you hear me? Are you able to speak?
Can you hear me now?
Hi, Denny. Can you just tell us your connection with Melrose? That would be great.
Yes, thank you. I helped start the Melrose bid. I'm president of the Melrose bid. And this goes back to 2014, have been instrumental with a number of other stakeholders in our area, particularly property owners and the tenants, to identify what we wanted to do with Melrose. And that's when we applied for that Melrose bid. I mean, for the Metro grant, okay? And so far, from what I'm understanding, Alex and Jeff, we are not getting everybody knows that the Melrose bid, if it wasn't for the Melrose bid, this grant wouldn't have been received. There's no way. And we've even offered to give a considerable amount of money to make this happen in terms of maintenance and some of the other things that are going to have to be done aside from the grant. So I think we're a little bit taken aback because we have spent since 2017 a whole book on a Melrose future vision. And basically we had concepts and logos drawn up about wayfinding signage and a number of other things in terms of the signage, the signage and the what else? The gateway signs. So I think it's important that you bring us into the conversation because a lot of these things we're seeing, we have no idea that they were being considered until Kim, our public relations person, told us yesterday that she was invited to a meeting and she was very disappointed too. And I see every reason why she is because most of the board members feel the same way. We have decided to brand this as a concept of bringing back the old Melrose that is so exciting and iconic, and I don't see it here, okay? One last thing and then I'll get off. The trees, we don't know enough about the trees to take a vote at this point. And I'm also concerned who's voting because, generally we should have people who are voting who are definitely here, part of the stakeholders, part of the street, and we can identify them. They're going to be here on the long run. They just didn't come in for a call for some reason because, they may be a community member or they may be all the way down in Hollywood or who knows where. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you, Denny, for your comments. We appreciate that. I'll address both actually because we have a little time, and then I'll open it up to other folks who want to speak. In regards to kind of the aesthetics, and I think we can further talk. We're definitely not shutting down the idea of having further conversations. This isn't the end all be all tonight. And the same with content. Like Jeff mentioned, still very open for interpretation about what the content of these wayfinding signs are going to be and the wording and the welcome to Melrose or whatever that gateway sign is going to say. This isn't the end. Further conversations with council offices and of course with the bid. And we do really appreciate the bid support and the money that's been given from the bid and the the maintenance that's being offered, or the support we're going to get from the bid. So we do appreciate your kind of continued relationship. And then in regards to trees, the only thing we're talking about tonight is just trees in general. We're not saying we're choosing a jacaranda tree and we're putting it at 8321 Melrose. So this is just the idea of trees on Melrose, what people's thoughts are about trees, thoughts about signage being blocked or sidewalks being uplifted, their concerns, favorite trees, not so favorite trees. That it's just an open conversation tonight about trees. Nothing again has been decided. Okay, so let's open it up to Brooke. Brooke, are you able to speak now?
Yes.
Hi there. Can you just tell us a little bit like your connection with Melrose?
Certainly. I live south of Melrose, off of Beverly Boulevard. So I frequently am on Melrose and drive through this corridor frequently. So I thought I've attended one of these meetings previously, and I noticed there was another one. And so I wanted to hop on and see what was going on and perhaps participate. I really appreciate all the work that people have done. I know it's probably been difficult for people to be engaged and know what's happening, but Zoom is really been a great way for community involvement, and I hope to be more involved because of Zoom. I appreciate the comments of the previous person who spoke, Weintraub, who seems to be very involved as a stakeholder of Melrose, and I second all of his comments. I just want to say, I've been in the chat, I'm really shocked at the design choice of this lamp pole. It's horrible. I'm sorry to say that. And the signs. These will be like, I think I've made the comments, it's gonna age so poorly. It's gonna be like looking at tacky 80s stuff. Like years shortly after it's instituted. So I think really going back to the classic designs of the street lamps in Los Angeles and hearkening back to the designs to see what fits within the Melrose neighborhood, but those everything from clouds and hot dogs and sunglasses, I just don't think the aesthetic will benefit or age well. And I think there definitely needs to be more community input and back to the drawing board on the designs. I can't believe that was the only design presented. Perhaps you've had presented some in previous meetings, but I'm actually was really shocked that was the design that was presented for voting.
All right, well, thank you for your comment. We appreciate it.
And I just say, I really appreciate all the work that you've done. I see there's been a lot of obviously a lot of thought, but there does need to be some more involvement. And just one more thing about trees. I suppose as a person walking around on the sidewalks of LA, the biggest problem is the roots of the trees destroying the sidewalk. So I hope that trees are being considered that aren't going to be root problems disrupting sidewalks as well.
They are. All right, well, thank you for your comments.
Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna open it up to Dale, and I should have mentioned 2 minutes. Dale, you're on.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Dale Kendall. I'm Zone Rep 4 in CD5, and I've lived in the area my entire life and went to Fairfax High School. I think trees, I'm 100% for trees everywhere and adding trees, but I'm not sure about Melrose. It just seems it's more of an urban area, and I'm not sure the storefronts are so close to the sidewalk that it may not be good, but I'm not sure. But my real comment is on the signs. I do not think that the signs are appropriate. they look to me like something that you'd see in Orange County by the beach or something like that. They don't really represent Melrose, how I think of Melrose. And I remember before Melrose was what we think of Melrose as now. I think they need to be something that's more timeless and is going to withstand the test of time, because we want them to be there for a long time. They look kind of a little bit trendy, modern to me, something that's going to be out of style in a few years, and people will look back and go, oh, they're those old signs. That's just my general thought. So something maybe a little bit more classic that blends in with the urban neighborhood. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Okay, David Hay, I'm gonna open this up. David, are you able to speak now?
Yes, I am. Thank
Okay.
you for calling on me. I appreciate that.
Yes.
So my name is David Hay. I'm a stakeholder within the Melrose bid. I'm also a board member of the Melrose bid. I think that given the need to have a win-win situation for the residents, the business owners, and the stakeholders and the city, I think there needs to be input on all sides. I believe Kim, who's the PR person for the bid, sent over an email with all of our brand designs back on January 11th, and sent an email to you, Alex, to Jeff Palmer, CCing Debbie Diner Harris, Dawn, and Derek. I think the only person that wasn't included was Elise Lee. And the bid, through its 10-year mandate, put a lot of time and effort and money into researching what would be the best way to enhance the desirability of this area by doing, for example, Google search analyses, surveys, polling patrons, and there was an overwhelming desire to have art as the focal point of this district, which is why we came up with the Melrose Arts District. There was also a great deal of time and effort by the bid and a lot of stakeholders and discussions with the business owners throughout the 186 properties that approximately 186 properties throughout the bid. And we came up with this Melrose Arts District, which really magnified the incredible work of these internationally renowned artists like Brainwash, like Alec Monopoly, like Kai Art, and all these amazing artists that have murals throughout the district that people are coming here to see. And I think to completely ignore that, I think would do an injustice to everybody. We've done the research, the stakeholders throughout the area, both the business owners, the landlords, and I think the residents all really enjoy this. We've done art walk tours, and to just put that aside and go with these designs without consulting everybody, I think it would be a big injustice to the community, and I think it would be a lose-lose for everybody. And I don't think the designs are consistent with the needs and wants and wishes of the stakeholders. So I would love to have an opportunity, as Don Duckworth said, to be able to provide that input for the Melrose Arts District, which is, I believe, really identifies most and is most consistent with the desires of the demographics and the people that are visiting, shopping, eating, and dining here.
All right. Well, thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So, Julian, I'm going to allow you to speak. Or Julian, I'm sorry, Julian. I'm sorry.
Hi, Alexander. My name is Julian. Thanks for putting me on, and also thank you for putting together this presentation. I'm a property owner. I worked with Denny to set up the Property Owners Association and Melrose bid. I've been doing this for 11 years by way of background. I worked with the premier placemaking company probably in the country. We did M Street in DC, Newberry's in Boston, a lot of projects in Lincoln Avenue, and then we were best known for Chelsea Market. So placemaking is our life. And on a personal note, I've been doing this with my family as well, and we were responsible for really kind of getting the 3rd Street Promenade going in the 80s, the Main Street District in Santa Monica, downtown Broadway, Sunset Junction area. And then you also will know us from our work with Boys Town locally. in West Hollywood. And so what we realize is what works and what doesn't work. And we don't want another Westwood Village. And one of the lessons that we've learned from doing all of these districts is that everything comes down to identity. Is cohesive identity is absolutely everything. The design needs to reflect the message that you're trying to do. And in every case of all these successful districts, it's always been a question of working together. There's no authoritative stance, which has been your really, take so far in terms of not even inviting us to the table to leverage off our research. And also, there's $500 million of infrastructure that all the property owners are managing. This is $4 million. This is a drop in the bucket compared to really all the infrastructure that the rest of us have to manage. So you might as well kind of ask for our input. But it's absolutely critical for us to be at the table. That's what worked in all of these instances. But the difference is Santa Monica and West Hollywood were independent cities, and you're not. And I think you need to start behaving like one if you actually want to make a difference and upgrade it and actually have the success of these independent cities. And I don't say that lightly. But in terms of pedestrian lighting, that needs to be up. Safety is everything based off all the polls and thousands of dollars of research that we spent, is people won't use the transportation infrastructure if they don't feel safe. And so that needs to be absolutely expanded on, and that is essential. And we're willing to contribute additional money in order to help you to get there. But that's something that needs to be a priority in this, is doing just certain segments of it doesn't necessarily help in terms of people walking districts. They're just safe for 10 feet. What about the other thousands of feet of sidewalks? So
Thank you for your comments. We do appreciate that. I did want to address, and it seems like we're kind of hearing you all with your concerns with the wayfinding signage and gateway signage, and so we will further address this. However, in regards to the lighting, right now the funding and the allocation for our grant was focused at bus zones, so that is within our scope of work right now, and we're happy to talk further with the bid if there is funding to potentially fund other lighting along the corridor. So we're not ending that conversation. However, this part of our grant, just to kind of reiterate, the focus is lighting at transit stops, at the 12 transit stops. Okay, I'm going to open it up to Marjorie. Marjorie, you should be able to speak now.
Yeah, hi.
Hi there.
Yeah, so I live just off of Melrose. I'm the first residential house off of Melrose. And I also have a business nearby and run another organization right on Fairfax. I've attended community meetings, the bid meetings. I've participated in a lot of different aspects peripherally since I moved into this neighborhood about 6 years ago, although I lived in West Hollywood prior to that for 17 years. So I just want to reinforce the comments around the Melrose Arts District concept. Even on social media, I feel like that's created a really different and culturally conscious point of view for this area. That, we have a very diverse community, and the street art that was mentioned, that's been now, really hubbed here, is such an important part of what draws people. It's an important part of what brings even the types of restaurants that come in here that are more innovative, the types of businesses that are doing really different kinds of retail than what you see in other parts of the city. I think that it's really critical that those things are considered in any sort of gateway signage design elements. And in my point of view, and I'm a pretty young person, I'm not a millennial, but I'm pretty young, it is really absent from those designs that we saw tonight. So just wanted to reinforce that point. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate that. Okay, let's see who else has their hand up that I may have missed. Looks like I may have gotten all the folks who raised their hands. So there's still a little time. If folks up, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to miss Taylor Nichols there. Let me open that up to you, Taylor. Go ahead, Taylor. Can you hear it? Are you able to speak now?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Hi there, Taylor. Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Hi there.
Yeah, hi. Thanks very much, you guys. I'm curious that for the people that live near Melrose, I live just off of Melrose for a long time. What is being done for alternate forms of transportation to access the restaurants and stores and theaters on Melrose? That's if we can create an environment where people don't have to drive there, that might increase business along the route. So I'm just curious what you're doing in that stretch. And my second comment is, I heard what you said about the lighting only at bus stops, but I would encourage theater, places where people do congregate at night. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. And so this project is a transit and pedestrian improvement project with the focus on, again, widening the sidewalks at Orange to Ogden, which is a great benefit for the folks who have businesses on that north and the high school on the south. Right now, it's very difficult, again, as Jeff was describing, to actually access the sidewalk and actually safely access that sidewalk. So that is a portion of our grant. I know you mentioned alternate modes of transportation. The bus is one that we are improving. We're improving all the bus zones at that are along Melrose with the lighting, improving all of the ADA accessibility. So folks who are not as able-bodied, folks who are walking with strollers even, et cetera, they're actually gonna be able to safely access those alternate modes of transportation, which is the bus along Melrose. Let's see if there's any other comments here.
Great. Thank you very much.
Anybody else want to speak openly or any questions that may not have been answered? We have a few more minutes.
Did you see Drew Shields?
Yeah, there are some questions existing.
And there's Drew has a hand
A
up.
few
Does Drew
open.
have a hand up still? I'm sorry. Up with this. Or Clyde. Drew, were you able to hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Hi there.
Yeah, hi. I'm Drew Shields. I live in the area for the past 7 years. Just want to say thank you for that map earlier, Jeff. Removing that left turn lane, that's one less intersection that I can die at on a bike. So appreciate that. And I know you can't do everything, but any place we can remove those left turns, it's just always a traffic nightmare for cars, even pedestrians, but especially bicyclists. So love to see that. I mean, I think, yeah, shade trees we definitely need during the summer. I don't walk on the north side of the street simply because it's 100 degrees. So those will help. But I think also another aspect of the shade trees that's nice that people haven't really thought about yet is that if you drive Melrose on the weekends, there's people who just kind of park their car in the middle of the lane, and now there's just like these big crowds in front of stores. I think that the trees kind of there will help dissipate the crowds. If you don't have a huge open space, kind of like in this image on the screen right now, you can't have a huge crowd because there's trees that are kind of low hanging branches kind of get in people's way. So that's kind of a benefit in a way of just in terms of dissipating crowds that kind of congregate in front of certain storefronts. In terms of the gateway signage, I know like we all just seem to be bagging on the gateway signage. Really, I'm really just curious, or is there a need for this? I mean, it's such a small, compact corridor we're talking about here. I guess maybe as like a welcome to the corridor at Fairfax or Highland is okay. But I mean, in terms of like wayfinding, like now that I'm really thinking about it, like if you look at this image, even like, driving up and down Melrose, you kind of just look for the building, like the yellow building, the pink building, the greenhouse looking building. Actually, these signages kind of get in the way of kind of what already exists in terms of like really kind of vibrant, identifiable architecture. So, and besides that, I mean, just like the turnover on it and, people trying to take photos, these signs kind of get in the way. I mean, if there's a real need for them, I guess, but I think that visually, like the wayfinding on Melrose is pretty straightforward. It's a single street. It's not like there's a multiple blocks, that you turn left and right off of. So really, that's just like my thought on the gateway signage. Like I said, like maybe if it actually brings you into the corridor, but once you're in the corridor, it's such a compact area that, just let the buildings speak for themselves.
Thank you for your comments. We do appreciate that. Clyde, are you able to speak now? I just unmuted you.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, hello.
Okay. Dr. Tom Williams from Northeast LA, but I used to work around 3rd and Fairfax. So I've been on Melrose many times. The signs are too big, but more importantly, what is the schedule for 2021? What's going to happen during this year so that we can plan to participate more? There's also, you might say, I worked on Sunset Boulevard too, and you have some of the same problems. And one of the issues is that you have C4 commercial on one side, C2 commercial on the other side. And like I said, the development is currently kind of like C1 as far as floor area ratios. So if you're successful and you go for 3 floors on both sides, there won't be any space left on the street. And you may have to take the curb parking lane and convert it to more sidewalk. So, like I say, longer term issues are there, but I'm more concerned about what are you going to do during the next year or during the rest of this year. So that's all.
Thank you for your comment. So again, we're starting the construction potentially in summer of 2022 for our project. There may be some activities that you guys are going to see out there within the next year, which would be our some minor sidewalk repair, which we were generously given money from the council office to do additional sidewalk work. But in regards to our project, the majority of the improvements will be happening in summer of 2022. Let me see if there's a few questions that I may have missed. Let's see here. Again, this recording will be on the website if you guys missed anything or want to go back and see. I see there's a couple questions from Dawn Duckworth about widening the bus zone length to provide more pedestrian lighting. I don't think I understand the question, Dawn. And then maximizing width rather than minimizing it. Dawn, would you like to, you're welcome to raise your hand, or Denny, if you want to clarify that. Happy to answer that. Denny, go ahead if you wanted to speak. Denny, I think you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I unmuted.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Can you repeat the question, Alex? I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
There was a couple questions from Dawn, or I don't know if you had the same question about widening the bus zone length to provide more pedestrian lighting and maximizing bus zone width rather than minimize it.
Well, I mean, basically, we want as much opportunity to light up Melrose as possible. Okay, you've identified 12 areas that are key at the bus stops, but we have decided, from our outreach to the community, that lighting is going to be the #1 issue as far as safety and keeping the vibrance of Melrose alive, because, in daylight saving time, summer is not bad, but daylight saving time, you got to close up at 5 o'clock. It's scary. It's dreary. It just is not conducive for having the kind of stores, particularly the restaurants and entertainment from the groundlings, to be open, past those hours with the kind of lighting we have on Melrose at this point. So of course we'll try our best, whether it's to apply for another grant or assess our members, because we have in the past and we will in the future. We'll go out and assess ourselves whenever we need to get lighting. We've already done it on some of the restaurant areas during COVID-19. So this is a big key for us. It's a very, very, very important issue.
Thanks, Denny. I appreciate the comment.
Sure.
Was there anybody else who had raised their hand? Roseanne, I'm going to allow you to unmute it now. You're free to speak, Roseanne. And you'll need to unmute yourself, I believe. Roseanne? Sorry, Roseanne, I'm not, I think you need to unmute yourself. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get you to have an opportunity to speak here, and it doesn't seem to be working. We'll come back to you, Roseanne. The first, and G-A-I, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Guy, possibly?
Hi, my name's Gay.
Hey, I'm sorry.
That's
Hi there.
okay. Hi, couldn't know. Hi, my name's Gay Garardi, and I have a business on Melrose since 1979, LAI Works. And I feel I just want to weigh in here that having, lived through the arc of many of the ups and downs, and while I appreciate all the work that's been done by everyone, I feel that the signage, gateway signage and pathway finding signage is so unappropriate to the area. I mean, without getting into a slam session, I just feel like I have to ask myself, what is someone thinking? It looks very commercialized. It looks very reductive. It is, to me, does not reflect the diversity of the area. It puts it in the context of a village kind of very conservative, and feels really dumbed down. That's what I have to say.
All right, well, thank you for your comments. We do appreciate that.
All right, thanks.
All right, let's see if we missed any other folks with their hands raised. Looks like we may have grabbed them all. And then any questions that we may have missed? Looks like we got to most of it, unless I'm missing anything, Jeff. I think we might have hopefully answered everything tonight. Okay, well, this is last chance if there's any folks up. Here's Denny again. We have another few minutes
There
here.
are a couple, Alexander, that remain to be answered, and some are marked that you're going to answer in the Q&A box.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's just double check that.
Yeah.
Which question was that?
There's only 7 open questions if you just look at open questions.
Right, I see that. Yeah.
Questions about solar.
Okay, thanks. Why can't all lights be powered solar? It would be amazing if the trees were, okay, so solar powered lighting. And we can look into solar powered lighting, and we'll talk to our partners at Bureau Street Lighting about that, and we appreciate that comment. Fruit-bearing trees. Fruit-bearing trees actually are permitted now. Typically, they're permitted in residential neighborhoods for folks who, it's a higher level of maintenance with fruit-bearing trees. So they are allowing that now in residential neighborhoods. Typically, we aren't putting those in the commercial districts, as I know that there is a great opportunity for food, having fruit on the tree, but there are major concerns with litter and slip and trip hazards in regards to the fruit. So typically, we try not to put fruit-bearing trees on commercial corridors. The comment also about sustainability and green. We are going to be making every effort to think about the type of trees, LED lighting, where, if any, we can capture water, even in the tree well areas, sloping sidewalks so that there's less water going into the curb and gutters, and the water actually goes into the tree wells. Emergency call boxes, I probably would defer to either the bid or the council office regarding the emergency call boxes. Debbie, do you have any comments on that, about emergency call boxes?
I am not familiar with any on LA City property. I know institutions often have them, like UCLA has their own police department, USC has them, maybe some large, medical centers like Cedars, but I'm not familiar with us doing that for LAPD. I don't know if anybody else has an example of that, but I'm not familiar with that we do that.
And then the last comment was about trees and creating basically dark spaces or shady spaces. Again, the trees haven't been finalized. We're going to be considering multiple tree species about what's going to be the best for the urban environment. We don't want to create a negative environment or a negative space, so nothing's been finalized yet in regards to trees. Let's see, other questions that we may not have addressed. Let's see. And then it looks like we have just another minute here. Denny, I'll unmute you, and that'll be our last person to speak.
It's Sylvia, who's also a board member. She wants to.
Hi, Sylvia. Okay, we have just a couple minutes here. Go ahead.
We were actually one of the first to open a store on Melrose. We built our building in 1983. And over the years, we've seen the biggest issue on Melrose, of course, is safety. We constantly are in communication with our police department and how to make Melrose safer. And one of the biggest issues for our tenants is lighting. Lighting is the most important factor when it comes to safety. Our building is constantly tagged. Our tenants are afraid to walk out the front of their stores to go to the parking lot. A lot of businesses close early. And why has some of the funding not been set aside for more lighting? I feel that trees is wonderful, but I think lighting would really enhance Melrose a lot more, bring a lot more people to Melrose. People need to feel safe. That is the most important issue that we are facing right now in conjunction with the police department. They want to see Melrose safer. And with that, I will defer to you and thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you, Sylvia. We appreciate it. Okay, let's see if we had addressed all of the comments here. Julian made a comment of which successful districts are you looking at for a case study to model this district after? I don't think I can actually answer that. I think that would be actually a question that Julian, maybe you'd want to direct towards Don Duckworth with the Business Improvement District. I think he'd be able to talk a little better. I think it's all right if we could provide Don's email. I'll provide that email. Again, this recording will be on, oh, Julian is part of the bid, I'm sorry. I am not able to answer that in regards to we are not actually modeling this after other bids. Were there any other comments? Okay.
I would like to say something that's somewhat related, yet not quite of this project, as long as we have this group of people here. So when everyone's done, I want to add something.
Yeah, and I think now's a good time, Debbie.
Okay. So going through this process, as the city does its due diligence, and Andrew and his team were looking at other things happening at the city level, they discovered that the DWP is proposing a project for this area, a water system upgrade. We have a pretty old pipe running down Melrose, and it needs a water pipe, and it needs to be replaced. So we decided that we're going to partner with DWP, and we're going to try to do this in tandem so that there's the least amount of impact on the community. We don't want to build this project and then a year later start digging the street up for DWP's project. And we don't want to do DWP's project first and then have to tear out things that they did, or et cetera. So this way we're working as a team with DWP to do this water pipe upgrade. There will be community outreach about it to educate everyone, especially merchants and people that may live nearby. It's going to be a tunneling project, or a trenching project. So they will be working in the street, doing trenching. They will be covering it up when they're not doing work, but there will be some lane closures. They'd like to work at night so that they can limit the disruption to the businesses and to the commuters, et cetera. So it's obviously there's a lot of questions and potential concerns, but I'm hopeful that by us working together, and we've got you all here I'd love to be able to invite you to an upcoming meeting with DWP. So I may ask Alexander if I can borrow that mailing list. Presumably you're interested in this, you'd be interested in that too. So take a look and see in your emails in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start that community outreach so that we can let you all know what's going on. So again, we are working in partnership with DWP so that we don't do things that waste public funds or, break into something that shouldn't be broken into if we had planned ahead. So wanted to give you that heads up.
Thanks for that update, Debbie. That's great. I think that's about it for this evening. I think we've run out of time. If there are additional comments or questions that we did not address tonight, you guys are, you will have the email. We're going to send an email out, kind of a thank you email with the recording and information. Email back at that email. We will address those questions and comments if there are more. Please keep it coming. We do really appreciate all of the feedback. And that's it for this evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Is there a way to make sure, let's see.
It says that there's only 4 panelists and 0 attendees. We need